Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel here for TGI Sports Talk Sunday, Stream of Consciousness. Great to have you with us. Quick change over here from being on the live on the Mac and Jack and Jim show, big football show on Northeast Streaming Sport. Happy to be there every Sunday morning. Happy to be here with you guys as well. Welcome, everybody watching us this morning. All right, I got the hiccup all of a sudden. Great. I've had the hiccups like 4 times in the last, or 4 times yesterday. Good grief. I know we talked about this before, and I don't think it's I hope it's not indicative of anything else. But I want to welcome everybody watching us on TGI Sports Talk today. Obviously on Northeast Streaming Sports, whether you're watching us there on Facebook or YouTube or Roku. We're live on Roku this morning. Download that Roku. You can watch this and all the other great Northeast Streaming Sports shows on Roku. Let's Talk Sports. We're live on there. I think we're live on there. I'm having trouble with my destinations here. I don't think I've gone live on Let's Talk Sports in weeks. I don't know what's going on there. But a few of the Let's Talk Sports shows also get on Northeast Streaming Sports, a Roku channel. So the only problem with Roku is you can't comment. So if you're going to watch, you need to, watch my show, you need to be on Facebook or YouTube to comment. But you still should download the Northeast Streaming Sports app on Roku. It's a really good setup, and there's a lot of shows. There's a lot of content there now, and there's more coming. So please do that. I want to say thumbs up, DDH, as I like to do, and don't want to forget that. And also a shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Sports. Lost my there it is. Lost my my intro for Ralph. Ralph from RW Sports, specifically the Sports Corner that he does with Jim Frazier, Smoking Jim Frazier on WVP, 1230 AM, 99.3 FM in Pittsburgh. Does a lot of great stuff over there. So lots to talk about today, guys. Lots in the NCAA. Some big losses yesterday. A big loss for Oklahoma. They're done in the playoff chase. Big loss for Notre Dame. A New Year's Day Bowl out of the question for them now. Big win for Bama. Big win for Georgia. Close game, as I thought it might be. Ohio State gets by Rutgers, but not as the game wasn't as big a rout as it looked like in the scoreboard. And we'll talk more about that and all the other stories. We'll talk about Jim Harbaugh again. We'll get into the NFL. I'll give you my top 12 rank, my top 12 for the playoff ranking. We'll get into the NFL, look a little bit at last week's games, this week's games, obviously. We'll look around the conferences, the divisions. Major League Baseball, we'll talk a little about the Rangers World Series win and some of the player movement that's already underway, or at least the beginning stages of it. We may have Jim Biringer on today. I'm unsure. I didn't hear back from him yesterday after he said he'd come on. I don't know. He didn't give me time. So if we get Jim, we'll talk some college football and some NHL with Jim Biringer. And then if we have time, we'll get into some NBA. But let's say some good mornings here. Who we got with us here this morning? Good morning, Dave Guyette, up there in Johnstown, New York. Drew Ehrlich, how are you today? Happy extra hour day, Drew says. Drew's down here in Waterford. I don't know where everybody is. I shouldn't start saying where everybody is. Dave Guyette, feeling better? Yes, thank you, Dave Guyette. Getting there, still not 100%. This morning, actually, I did not feel well. Very congested, but now I feel better than I felt in 3 weeks. So feeling very good. Good morning to Rick Sherlock. Nice job on the baseball show with Drew Ellen Ehrlich. Well, it's just Drew Ehrlich, actually. But we had a good time Friday, and we'll do some more of that during the offseason. Good morning, Anthony Price. Let's go, Oregon. I got Oregon. Listen, we're going to talk about the rankings, but a lot of people think Oregon should be ranked ahead of Washington. I've got them just behind them. And until they beat them, which they'll have a chance most likely in a Pac-12 championship game, I can't root them ahead of them. And Drew says, thanks, Rick, as always, and thanks, Keith, for having me on again. No worries, Drew. Love having you on the baseball show for sure. And we'll certainly do more of that during the off season. We won't do it every week because there's going to be weeks I come on and do 20 minutes probably. But, there's going to be a lot of player movement coming up, and we'll talk about some of that in just a little bit. So welcome, everybody. Lots to talk about. Again, if Jim Biringer does pop in, we'll jump into his talk to him a little bit about the college football and a little NHL possibly. Is a lot going on with the NHL getting started. Some teams off the hot starts and You got the Bruins picking up where they left off in the regular season last year. Anyway, you've got the Knights undefeated, and on the other side, you get the Sharks without a win. So we'll talk to Jim a little bit about that stuff if Jim pops in. Not sure where we're going to be there, but we'll see. College football Saturday. Oh, that's Jim Biringer's slide. Lots of big games, guys. Lots with playoff implications. Let's go through the top 25 quickly. Any comments you want to put up? I know if Kenny comes in, he's really down on his Notre Dame team. Sam Hartman didn't play well yesterday. Something is just missing there. Hey, CA, good morning. Good to have you with us. Down there in Texas somewhere, I believe. Let's just look quickly at the scoreboard, and I'll give you the early week games. Duke beats Wake Forest 24-21. Wake's season is not a good one. I still hope to get Larry Sorensen on to talk about the ACC and some of the other stories around the NCAA. He's a Michigan grad. I'd like to talk to him about that. So we'll go there. Good morning to Kenny Gifford. Knew he'd be there. Millie in Illinois with the kids. Kenny is. Hope the weather's better there. Friday, Boston College beat Syracuse 17-10. Fifth straight loss for Syracuse. Dino Babers. I love the way Dino Babers coaches his team, but I'm not sure he can survive another collapse, which they're in the middle of right now. Getting into the top 25, Notre Dame, 31-23 losers to Clemson. Game wasn't that close, guys. Clemson outplayed them, got ahead in this game like 24-3, I think. 20, maybe it's, I think it was 24-3, I think. The offense just never looked in sync for Notre Dame. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's a play calling. Sam Hartman, I know Kenny was, I don't know if he should be embarrassed. Kenny was Kenny's remark yesterday, but he certainly is not playing good football. This team doesn't look in sync. They probably blew their chance at a New Year's Day bowl game yesterday. Clemson, on the other hand, played one of their best games of the year. Klubnik played well. The defense played well. Their secondary was supposed to be in tatters. And, you know, Dabo had a tough week this week. Had a run-in with a 19-year-old kid who called into his call-in show, which, you know, he kind of gave it back to him pretty good. But Dabo can turn this. This is the first adversity he's really faced. You know, they've had down years the last couple of years, but they've won 10 games. This year, I mean, he might be 7-6. 8, 7-6, 8-5, maybe at best. We'll see. Maybe they'll come back and they go on a run here. We'll see. But still, you know, you're looking at a 4-loss season at best, and that's not Clemson-like. And Dabo can turn this whole thing around. I'm not a fan of the transfer portal. I'm not a fan of NIL, but Dabo needs to embrace it. It's here to stay. Maybe it'll be, tweaked here and there, but it's here to stay, and he will not embrace it. And you're not going to keep up with the haves if you just do not make a change here. So, and I'll get Kenny's comment on Notre Dame here quickly. Notre Dame should have stayed in the ACC where he could have. Notre Dame should have stayed in the ACC. I think where he could have won. Well, listen, number one, Notre Dame wasn't going to the ACC. If Hartman should have stayed, if you're talking about, then that's one thing. Notre Dame wasn't going to go to the ACC and take a pay cut in TV money. So that was probably never going to happen. The ACC could have forced their hand a couple years ago, but they didn't. Elsewhere, I think I'm in just the I'm only in the ACC. That's why I got those other games. Sorry about that. Elsewhere, Ohio State 35-16 over Rutgers. Looks like a blowout. They actually covered the spread in this game. But in the third quarter, Rutgers ahead 9-7, going in for a touchdown that would have given them a 2-score lead, 2-possession lead. And they turn the ball over, and Georgia runs it back for a touchdown, a horrible turnover, and it just changed the whole complexion of this game. I believe Ohio State outscored them 28-7 after that. So tough loss for Rutgers. Rutgers has played good. Give Rutgers credit. Give Greg Schiano credit. they've had a pretty good season this year, and they had a chance yesterday to beat, one of the big boys in the Big Ten, which is not what they've done since they've been there. Rutgers really needs to move to the AAC or someplace. Georgia with a hard-fought 30-21 victory. Give Missouri credit. They stayed in this game. Give Georgia credit because they made plays when they had to. Pretty good game for Carson Beck. Pretty good game for McConkey. Missouri had a pretty good game. Couple bad turnovers. A couple of fourth down plays that didn't go their way. And they were overmatched, but still lost by just 9 points. So listen, they were in this game right up until the very end. And I bet the over. So I was hoping for a score at the end. Michigan rolls over Purdue 41-13, despite the controversy going on about Harbaugh and the sign stealing and Stallion resigning this week. We don't know whether he's fired or resigned. Well, first report said he was fired. We'll get to your comments in just a second. Let me get through the top 25, and then we'll put any comments you want up about any of yesterday's games. We'll certainly talk about all of them. Florida State gets off to a bit of a slow start, runs away from Pittsburgh, not a good Pittsburgh team, 24-7. Washington outlasts with USC 52-42. Washington's defense hasn't been great. Now, again, not easy to play USC in that high-powered offense on the road. So I'm going to give them a pass for this. But they give up 42 points. They haven't played great since the Oregon game. They need to get it better, but they remain undefeated. And I'm going to have them just outside of my top four in my playoff picks, which we'll get to before we end this segment. Oregon rolls 63-19 over Cal. Some style points there as Oregon tries to impress the committee. Texas with a tough fought win, 33-30 over Kansas State. Kansas State playing really good football since they lost to a couple ranked opponents early in the season. Nothing to be ashamed of here. I think between this game being so close, Oklahoma losing, it's possible the Big 12 is now out of the playoff chase. We'll see. Texas will have a chance. Some things got to happen in front of them, I think, for them to have a chance to get in. A team that is not eliminated and controls their own destiny after all of us tried to write them off early in the year. Alabama 42-28 over LSU. LSU's defense just horrible. Daniels played well in his first half, not quite as well in the second half. And he was outplayed, I think, by Milroe in this game. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy. I was all over this team, plus 6.5 at home yesterday. They beat Oklahoma 27-24. Oklahoma State still in the thick of getting into the Big 12 championship game, and maybe they've got the inside track now to play Texas in that championship game. Ole Miss with a big victory over Texas A&M. They had to have a late score to get it, I believe, or a late turnover, I should say. 38-35 over Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher falls to 500 in the SEC. Again, they just keep losing with all the best talent supposedly in the conference. Ole Miss, despite being 8-1, unlikely they're going to have a playoff chance. I've got them at 9 now. Doubtful they can get higher than 5 or 6 because they can't get to the SEC championship game unless Bama loses to Kentucky and Auburn, which I do not expect to see. Penn State rolls over Maryland 51-15, getting prepared for that Michigan game that they're inevitably going to lose. Louisville coming back with a win over a resurgent Virginia Tech team, 34-3. Probably too little, too late. I mean, again, this is a team that's going to should have one loss going into the ACC championship game against an undefeated Florida State team. But even if they were to win, their one loss is against a bad Pittsburgh team, and I doubt they can overcome that in the playoff race. Oregon State 26-19 over Colorado. The news here was that Pat Shurmur was brought in, former Giant coach, former Viking coach, I believe, right, Rick? And brought in to call plays. Didn't work out, as I think Colorado had maybe their worst offensive output of the year. Anyway, they fall to 1-5 in the Pac-12, 4-5 overall. I said they'd be 6-6, which is a good season for this team. It can't be looked at as a negative when you think about where they were before the season started. There was too much hoopla early on, And I've said that consistently. Tennessee rolls over UConn. UConn's got no business playing Tennessee, except they want the big payday. 59-3. Big win for Tennessee. Utah 55-3, rebounding from a bad loss to Oregon last week. They dismantled Arizona State. Arizona beats UCLA. Arizona playing really good under Jed Finch, the former quarterback coach for the Patriots. Rebounded very well from a couple of tough seasons and being on a hot seat out there. He's now 4-2 in the Pac-12, 6-3 overall. Nice win over UCLA. Iowa State loses to Kansas at home, 28-21. Tulane 13-10 over East Carolina, close to a bad East Carolina team, but on the road. Tulane probably has the inside track right now of that group of five bid to the New Year's Day games. And Army, kudos to Jeff Monken and Army. Great win at Air Force, undefeated Air Force. I really thought Air Force had a great chance to go undefeated and nab that New Year's Day bowl game, but they lose 23-3. Temple beats Army yesterday as well, or beats Navy yesterday to finish up the military schools. Bad loss for Washington State yesterday as they continue to just tumble. Nebraska also lost their momentum with a loss yesterday to Michigan State. Not a good Michigan State team. So a bit disappointing for those teams. Kenny talking about Hartman. If you went to Notre Dame to up his, well, he went to Notre Dame for a couple of reasons. He went to Notre Dame for a better chance to win a national championship, up his profile he was a mid-round draft pick at best, and he's probably no better than that now, maybe worse. But let's not forget, I mean, the ACC is not a bad football league, Kenny. And your Notre Dame school is affiliated with the ACC, not part of it, but they do have a commitment to play X amount of games against the SEC or ACC this year. And it's not a bad league. And Sam Hartman holds a bunch of not just ACC records, but NCAA records coming into the season. He's not a bad quarterback. This isn't all on Sam Hartman. Some of this is on, the play calling, the lack of a running game. So again, Sam Hartman has not played well. I'm not going to say he has, and I'm not going to take the onus totally off him. But this is a bigger problem than just a quarterback. I mean, as bad as he's played, he's the best quarterback that you've had since, I don't know, Rick Meyer. I mean, how many better quarterbacks can you name, Kenny, than Sam Hartman that Notre Dame's had? He hasn't played well, but he's better than Ian Book, and I like Ian Book. He's certainly better than the kids he replaced, the triumvirate that they played the last couple of years. Do you see Big Boy rumbling? Yeah, I did see Big Boy rumbling. I wanted him to score there, Rick, because I had the over, as I said, and that play got called back. I never did see what the penalty was. I'm pretty sure it's the same play you're talking about. The ball came back. He got down to like the 5-yard line, but they got called back, and they're all the way back at their 30. It must have been a block in the back or something. I really wanted that score because I think maybe we would have got a late score from Missouri and the game go over, but whatever. It wasn't interesting to watch. Rick, I could see. Oh my God. Rodney Marker. Oh, God bless you, Rodney. I don't know. Is Rodney still with us? I know Brian passed. I feel like Rodney did too, but Rodney was quite a character, man. Used to see him down to the Weavers a lot when I would go there. Kenny Gifford, that's funny. James Madison is still undefeated. Great season. I agree. That's one of the ones I should have written down, Kenny. 9-0 now, I believe, right? And I think it's a travesty. This is a team that would be probably in line to get that New Year's Day bowl game if they were eligible. But they're not eligible for postseason. They can't even play in their league's championship game because of a stupid NCAA rule is you're not eligible for postseason your first 2 years at FBS 1. I have no idea why the NCAA enforces that rule. None. I mean, it makes no sense. None to me. ACC teams, now they're weak this year. Don't look at Hartman as a second-tier quarterback, the best quarterback on the bench. Do we really think that? I mean, would they not play the best quarterback? If Sam Hartman wasn't the best quarterback, you think Notre Dame doesn't want to win games? This has not been a good experience for Sam Hartman, I'm sure. He could have left school, or he graduated already from Wake. And the ACC teams, don't judge the ACC on this year. The ACC is a pretty deep league. And he was playing against Clemson every year. He was playing against, well, Miami hasn't been that good recently. North Carolina's been okay. Florida State certainly was better last year. NC State's had a pretty good run there. Louisville's had some good years. I mean, it's not a bad league. But I don't disagree. Hartman's been a disappointment for sure. Some other news, no news other than the fact that Stallion did resign. Connor Stallion did resign from the Michigan coaching staff, whatever his position was. Again, I still think I don't think anything is going to happen this year. Supposedly Michigan pulled a contract offer to Harbaugh. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say again, and I know a lot of guys don't agree with me, but everybody's doing this stuff. Why do you think all the coaches that speak up, not all of them, but a good portion of the coaches that speak up do it anonymously? Because they don't want to be investigated. And now the rumor is that the investigation kind of started with Ryan Day's family. Within Ryan Day's family. Come on. There are people out there who do not want Jim Harbaugh to succeed. Some of them are fans of this show. But I'm telling you that this stuff is going on and it's not that big a deal. It's just not that big a deal. Everybody sends coaches to scout opponents. Now, he got himself dressed up, on Eastern Michigan or Central Michigan, whatever it was, sideline, and was filming from there. Maybe the filming's a bad thing, but does it really matter? Do they need to film to beat Purdue? They need to film to beat Ohio State, maybe. How about you just change your plays up, change your signals? And the NCAA, by the way, you're at fault for this whole thing in my mind, because if you just let them put the headsets in the helmets, we wouldn't have this type of problem. So anyway, I don't think anything happens with this. Michigan did urge the Big Ten to respect the due process. If anything happens, it's going to come from the Big Ten. The NCAA doesn't act fast enough. NCAA is going to make a ruling on whatever they do in like 2030. But the Big Ten might act faster. And if they ban them, and I don't see the Big Ten doing that because, again, they want the money. They're not going to ban Michigan State from appearing in the postseason when they got a shot at getting two teams in the playoff. Money talks. Kenny will attest to that. What do you got here? They did put all their eggs in with Hartman. I agree. This should have been their year. Other teams were up in the air. This should have been a good year for. I don't disagree with any of this. They had their chance to beat Ohio State. It didn't happen. They had a who'd they lose to the second? Oh, USC they demolished USC. They lose to a Clemson team they shouldn't have lost to. I'm trying to think who else they lost to now. Anyway, that's that. The Michigan story is a Michigan story. It's not different. I agree. What's the real problem? That the NCAA is struggling? The NCAA's been struggling for years. They have no oversight over anything. They can't get out of their way. They can't make a ruling on anything for years and years and years and years. I've said forever, they need a football czar. The NCAA's got a president. It's the guy who used to be governor of Massachusetts now, who took over from Mike Emmerich. But the NCAA doesn't have a governing body that can really react and investigate these things in a timely fashion. And I think it's, again, this particular thing is aimed at Harbaugh because there are people that don't like Harbaugh. Because, as Rick said, he's arrogant. But you know what? He's a pretty good football coach, isn't he? He's a pretty good football coach. Elsewhere what do we got here? Rick's going to speak up probably on the... there are different levels of cheating, and Michigan has always been over the line, have they? What have they been over the line? I mean, always. What's always, Rick? There hasn't been a lot that I've seen with Michigan other than the recruiting violations, which were minuscule. Nothing that anybody should get excited about, buying hamburgers for prospects. And again, the things that they do on the recruiting trail are no different than anybody else. Now they covered, Harbaugh lied to the committee. That's why he gets suspended. And I'm not sure how there's different levels of cheating. You're either cheating or you're not. I mean, again, and I say, again, I'm not necessarily saying I'm okay with cheating. I'm saying everybody does it. So you can't selectively enforce. We'll find some articles to share this week on the college football show since John DeLon wanted to call me out on not having, I don't have evidence. I use common sense. Common sense says Jim Harbaugh didn't think this up on his own. Other people do this stuff. They're trying to find something, and the big culprit is Ohio State. That's entirely possible. It's entirely possible from the looks of things that this whole thing originated and was hatched somewhere in the Ohio State family. The only real cheaters are the Vikings. Guarantee the Vikings are doing some of their cheating as well, like everybody in the NFL as well, like everybody in Major League Baseball. I mean, come on, this isn't new. There are no levels, though, Rick. If you're cheating, you're cheating. Is it okay if he was filming from the stands? No. And again, I'm not necessarily defending the cheating. I'm opinionating the fact that it goes on everywhere. So either police everybody or police nobody. Said the same thing. And again, people will say, Rick may have already, that I have the opinion I have because I'm a Patriot fan. I had the same opinion during Spygate, which, by the way, part of was fictional. The part about them taping the Rams walkthrough before the Super Bowl in 2001, they didn't. And the Boston paper that made a big deal about it and put it on a front page, when they had to make a retraction, it was on page 5 of section 12. Come on. Everybody does this stuff, and they enforce the people they want to enforce for whatever reason they want to get those people. Same thing with Deflategate. Everybody does this stuff. Every quarterback in the NFL manipulates the ball. Or did. Rick, they let him on a sideline with a side. Again, I'm not saying what they did was okay. I'm saying selective enforcement. So, and again, I think it was Central Michigan that let them, if I'm not mistaken, it was Central Michigan that let them on the sideline and gave him garb that made him look like he was with Central Michigan. Remember, the Horny Toads were very careful about closing practices before playing Michigan last year. Well, I get it. Now, you can't go and film a team's practices, but the games are open. You're scouting. What is the difference really, at the end of the day? What's the difference between scouting a team's tendencies and notating it and knowing what they are? When they line up this way, they do this. When they line up this way, do this. When 88 goes in motion, they do this. And putting it on film, it's easier because you can see it, but it's still the same data. And again, I'm not defending cheating. Christ Perth is not a place, by the way. He's saying Christ, Perth used to film games and had advanced scouts. Class A football. Oh, Class D football. Excellent point, Kenny Gifford. Excellent point. Oh, God. So NCAA, just put the listening devices in the helmet and you won't have a problem. Maybe we'll revisit this. If Jim Biringer pops in, we'll discuss this a bit further. I don't have any messages from him, so he may have had other things come up. Elsewhere, anything else I wanted to bring up? We talked about Sweeny. We talked about Bama. Milroe playing a great game. By the way, Alabama's gotten better and better and better all year. Well, not all year, but since the South Florida game. Milroe's played much better since he's gotten back in the lineup. He played a very complete game yesterday against LSU. He was definitely the best quarterback on the field yesterday. All the hype was for Jalen Daniels. And again, Bedlam's going away. The other big story for me, Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, who I did bet plus 6.5 at home, beat Oklahoma in the last Bedlam for God knows how long. My big problem with realignment is this. The fact that, these traditional rivalries, this is a 100-year rivalry, are gone. They'll find a way to schedule a game in the future, but it's not going to be for a while. And this is one of the big, and it's not the only one. They're all over the country. So, let's just see if there's other games of note yesterday we want to touch on. I thought I had a couple. Then I'm going to give you my top 12. Give you my top 12 for the college football poll, which will come out Tuesday night. Texas Tech beats aforementioned at TCU. 4-5 TCU now, 2-4 in the Big 12. That Colorado win doesn't look so good now, does it? We talked about Syracuse, tough. These will all be top 25s, which we talked about. Tulane, I mentioned. Arkansas with a nice win. They also fired their offensive coordinator this year. They get a nice win at Florida. Their coach Hartman has been in trouble as well at Arkansas. He's done a great job. He had done a great job earlier in his tenure turning his team around, but this year has been very, very bad. 3-6, 1-5. Their first win in the SEC. Indiana beats Wisconsin at home. Would have been a good pick yesterday. Michigan State beats Nebraska. Matt Rule had gotten some nice momentum going after a tough start to the season. They were over 500 in the Big Ten. They're still 5-4 overall. But this is not a good loss to a bad Michigan State team, even though it's on the road. I'm not even going to talk about the Gamecocks playing the Gamecocks. South Carolina barely beats Jacksonville State by 10. Carolina beats Campbell. Why are these teams playing these teams this late in the season? I know you're going to play some cupcakes. Why are you playing these teams so early in the season or so late in the season? Georgia Tech playing pretty good football in the ACC, 45-17 over Virginia. I mentioned Navy lost to Temple 32-18. UTSA, who I still like, and they're undefeated. Their non-conference record is only 1-3, but they're 5-0 now in the American. I said that they may win this. They're going to either them or Tulane may end up with a championship there, and that may be the team that gets that New Year's Day bowl game for the Group of Five. A nice win for Illinois on the road at Minnesota yesterday. Iowa puts on a tremendous offensive show and wins 10-7 over Northwestern. Kudos to Northwestern for playing so tough this year. Houston beats Baylor 25-24. UCF gets their first Big 12 win, albeit over one of the other newcomers, Cincinnati, but they do get their first win in the Big 12. Cincinnati's still 0-6 in the league. James Madison, Kenny mentioned before, 42-14 over Georgia State. Stupid rule by the NCAA. I don't understand. Do anybody care about anybody else here? Liberty wins. They stay undefeated, 56-30 over Louisiana Tech. UNLV with a big win over New Mexico, 56-14. West Virginia staying alive in the Big 12, 37-7 over BYU. Kentucky with a win on the road yesterday, 24-3 over Mississippi State. SMU still alive in the American Conference, 5-0. They get 36-31. And Fresno beats Boise 37-30. Here's my top 12. We'll move on to the NFL. Top 12. You remember the College Football Committee will have their picks out on Tuesday night. I'm moving Georgia up to number one. I had number one last year. I think there's a good chance Georgia may jump back to number one this year. We'll see. Look at this. Will all play itself out. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't really matter. Just get in there, and that's all it matters. I'm going to get to Don there in a second. So Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State 3rd, Michigan 4, Washington 5. I've moved Alabama ahead of Oregon to 6, Oregon 7, Texas 8. Texas with a tough road. Oregon will have a chance to do their own damage. I think if Oregon beats undefeated Washington in the Pac-12 championship, depending on what happens in front of them, they'll have a chance to get in the playoff. Texas, I think what happened yesterday really has hurt Texas. I've got them 8, but their chances of winning, even if they win the Pac or the Big 12, they're going to win over a 1 or 2 loss team. Plus, they struggled with with Kansas State, and now Oklahoma, who beat them, has lost 2 in a row, so that hurts them. I've got the Ole Miss at number 9. No chance for Ole Miss to get to the playoff because they can't even get to the SEC playoff unless Alabama loses 2 in a row. Not going to happen. While I say that, I've got Don P here with the Roll Tide, and I've got them all the way to number 6. Alabama controls their own destiny here. There's no doubt in my mind. This team's gotten better. Rick, you talk a lot about teams getting better, Georgia getting better, and they have through the course of the year, but so has Alabama. And neither one of these are the classic Georgia-Alabama teams we've seen in the last decade, let's say. Certainly Georgia last couple of years. But I do think that they're definitely going to collide again, and I think it'll be a really good SEC championship game. I've got Penn State at 10 for now until they lose to Michigan. Louisville at 11, but Louisville with a very tough road. Even if they beat an unbeaten Florida State in the ACC championship game, they've got a really bad loss to Pittsburgh on their resume. And Oklahoma State, I've moved to 12, even with 2 losses. I moved them ahead of a couple of 1-loss teams. So again, lot to play out here in the rest of the season. We got the Pac-12 season to finish up. We got Michigan to play Ohio State. We got Michigan to play Penn State yet. So lots of football to come. What do you got here, CA? Scouting is watching and getting footage of opponents play, not sneaking into an opponent's practices in preparation for playing them. I don't think anybody's accusing Michigan of sneaking into practices. If they have, I missed that part of the story, and I'll apologize. But as far as I know, all of the scouting and filming, if you will, has happened during games. And by the way, it's not like teams don't sneak in other teams' practices either. That's something that's been going on for decades as well. So, but I don't think they're accused of that. What do I think about the hype at Colorado? Look, I stand where I stood at the beginning of the season. I said, and everybody said, I saw this team as 6-6 team. A lot of people, and perspective's everything, right? Most people said if this team went 6-6, it would be a huge, a great job by Dion and that team. Well, this team's going to go 6-6, but because they started out 3-0, they beat a TCU team that has turned out to be not as good as what we thought they would be. They beat a Nebraska team that is a little bit better under Matt Rule, but still not anywhere near where they were. And who else did they lose to? Who else did they win early? Help me out. Who else did they play early, guys? Anybody? Get to them here. Hold on. Trying to remember the other team they beat early. We're in a Pac-12. Can't even spell. God. 1-5 in the conference, by the way, which is what I would have expected. Oh, Colorado State, not a good football team. So you get to 3-0, you got all the hype, and I said then that team would finish 6-6, maybe 7-6. You know, I said at the end of December, at the end of October, or the end of September, that they'd be 3-2. They'd get killed by Oregon and USC. Well, they kept the USC games close. Look at Deion's done a really good job there. I don't take anything away from him. He likes the hype. He plays off that. It's good for the program. But 6-6 is not a disappointment. It is now to a lot of people in retrospect because they started out so well. But again, even then I was saying 7-6 tops. Well, 7-6 they go. They're not even bowl eligible yet, guys. They should be a bowl eligible. Let's see where are they here. They've got Arizona. You know, I counted Arizona maybe as a win. Now I think it might be a loss. Arizona's playing good football. Washington State up in the air because Washington State's really been plummeting. And Utah. That's a pretty tough finish. This team's likely to go 1-8 in the Pac-12. This is almost as bad as last year. They may not be 6-6 now that I look at this. So, Rick sees some of the bling was recovered from the car. I didn't see that. As you know, when they played UCLA a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the bling was stolen from the locker room. And Deion made a point that the Pac-12 ought to make good on replacing it, but I'm not going to get wrapped up in that story. I think they got some of their stuff back. Don't bring that stuff into a locker room. Don says, man-to-man, Arizona's been should have been a win, but now they're getting exposed. Oh, against Colorado, you're talking about. Yes, early in the year, I would have counted that as a win. And Arizona, I said earlier in the show, Arizona under Jed Fish has turned their fortunes around. Former quarterback coach for the Patriots, and he's done a great job of turning his program around. He was on the hot seat entering this season. They hadn't had the seasons before weren't very good, and he's done a pretty good job here of turning their fortunes around, I think. So. Well, let's move on, guys, to the NFL. We'll take a quick look at last week's results. I want to look at the league, and we'll get into this week's games. If you have any leftover college football stuff, we can jump into it. That's certainly no problem. Last week, real quick, Bills beat the Buccaneers. Dolphins beat the Patriots. Patriots had a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. Mac Jones didn't play badly, had a bad turnover near the end of the half. But I thought the Patriot defense played gamely. Tua ended up having a pretty good game, 3 touchdowns and interception. But I thought the Patriots did a good job stopping the run. They could not control Waddle with that depleted secondary. But they still were in this. And I like the fact that they're still battling. This was a big win a big game for the Patriots because they're going to win this game. They've got some winnable games coming up here. And now, I mean, they're 3-6 or 2-6. And I expect them to beat the team formerly known as the Redskins today, but we'll see. Cowboys beat the Rams 43-20. Cowboys do a pretty good job of beating up on bad teams. Dak had 4 TDs. I've seen a lot of comments on Facebook this year that when all is said and done, that Dak Prescott will have a better career than Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what world you guys are living in. And I'm going to talk a little about Kansas City in a little bit. But again, I said the same thing last year. People were talking about Kansas City just getting by, not covering spreads. Last week they had a bad loss to Denver. The team was sick. Mahomes was sick. It was very obvious. This is still a very good football team. They're 6-2. Last year, people tried to write them off. And I said the demise of the Kansas City Chiefs has been greatly exaggerated. And I feel the same way today. This team's still the favorite to come out of the AFC in my mind. Maybe behind the Bengals. We'll see. Vikings beat the Packers, but actually lost the war here as they lost Kirk Cousins to a Achilles injury, which we know he's not coming back from. Possibly his Minnesota career is over. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Titans beat the Falcons 28-23. Will Levis, who I talked up mightily last year before the NFL draft, I said that of the guys taken, he would have the best career in the NFL, and he's the last one to get a start, and he only went for 4 touchdowns last week. Now, he played Thursday night, didn't play quite as well, but still, Will Levis, I think, is going to be an NFL quarterback, and he's acquainted himself pretty well the first couple of weeks with a bad Titans team, by the way. So that was the news from there. Their Saints beat the Colts 38-27. Derek Carr had a good game here. This is Derek Carr's MO, up, down. And when it matters, he'll come up very small. The Jets and the Giants played one of the worst football games I've watched in a long, long time. 13-10 win for the Jets. The Giants just gave this game away at the end. And it was an overtime win, by the way. But so they had to subject everybody to an extra few minutes of this horrible game. The Jaguars played great football, win their 6th in a row, and beat Pittsburgh 20-10. Eagles 38-31 over the team formerly known as the Redskins, who have traded 2 of their best defensive players this week. So I like the Patriots' chances this week. The Panthers get a win finally. They beat the Texans 15-13. Seahawks keep my hopes alive for my NFC champion at least. 24-20 over the Browns. Broncos 24-9 over the Chiefs. Again, let's not get too excited over one bad game from Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Ravens 31-24 over the Cardinals. Bengals 31-17 over the 49ers. Really good game for the Bengals and Joe Burrow. He throws 3 touchdown passes. Purdy did not look good. Purdy does not look good during his 3-game losing streak for the 49ers. What's wrong with the 49ers? I don't know if it was me. If you watch this game, I feel like Purdy's arm strength looks pretty suspect right now. I watched some ducks, even some passes he completed. Look like, are they ever going to get to the receiver? Chargers beat the Bears 30-13. Keep me alive in a survivor pool at Creekside Tavern. We're going to take the Seahawks today. No, not the Seahawks. I already took the Seahawks. We're going to take the Browns today. And they're criminally, what is it? What do we call him, Drew? The massage molester? I don't remember what we call him. And the Lions go to 6-2 and beat the Raiders 26-14. Some news around the league. Stafford may be out today. Waller and Taylor put on the IR for the Jets. We talked about Will Levis. We'll talk a little bit more about him as we go around the league. And then we'll get into this week's picks. Any other news you want to bring up, you certainly can. Drew says Raiders blow up the team. Good point. I've missed that. Raiders fire their GM and they fire Josh McDaniel. So Josh McDaniel now has failed miserably in 2 stops outside of New England. And some guys are just really good coordinators and not good head coaches. And Josh McDaniel is obviously one of those guys. It's possible Josh McDaniel makes his way back to Foxborough. I wouldn't rule it out, depending on what happens the rest of this year with the offense. If you remember, 3 years ago, during Mac Jones's rookie year, where he was very good, by the way, his offensive coordinator was Josh McDaniel. This Raider team is probably going nowhere. I mean, the ownership, they just can't make the smart call. They should have kept Bisacci. I can never remember how to say the guy's name. The special teams coach who took over before they hired McDaniel 2 years ago and led the team to the playoffs, I believe, or at least a good finish. I think they made the playoffs. And they did not keep him, and he left and went to Jacksonville. Good coach. We'll take it when we go around the league. We'll look at some other coaches that might be in trouble too. We'll see how that goes. Missing Dabo and his all-purpose play. I agree. For 49ers, the problem with Samuel is he can't seem to stay on the field. He's a great talent, and as Rick said, an all-purpose back who catches the ball, runs the ball. But maybe they ask him to do too much. This team's got a ton of talent. I'm curious, though, did anybody else watch that game and say to themselves, there's something wrong with Purdy's arm? There seemed to be no zip on the ball on anything he did. Maybe it was my TV. I don't know. And I was dozing during it as I was still kind of sick, but I just felt like there was something missing. There are a lot of important injuries this week. A lot of important injuries every week. And again, this goes back to my argument about, lack of preparation and hitting in preseason. You can only wear pads for 10 days in preseason. Starters don't play in preseason games. So you don't get prepared to be hit. Excuse me. You get to the regular season, now you can't hit in practice at all. So I think a lot of these injuries, especially early in the season, and I would say all season long, are a byproduct of not practicing enough, not getting hit enough in practice and getting prepared. You see quarterbacks get hurt, and quarterbacks don't know how to absorb hits. No player knows how to absorb hits. That's why you guys see guys get hit and get hurt because they go down because they're not getting tackled during the preseason or during the week in practice. So, again, I think Drew and everybody else, I've said this for a long time. I think the Players Association, is concerned about player safety, and I think that they've shot themselves in the foot, that they've put their players at risk by limiting the things that can go on. That's when we're not actually playing a game. I've said that for a long time, and I've seen nothing, to change my mind. Nothing. Let's go around the league a little bit. Get your comments about the different conferences. If you want to talk about the different divisions and conferences, I'll talk about who my favorites might be at this point. We're approaching midseason. This is kind of the halfway mark, I guess. At halftime today, it's a halfway mark, I guess, for most teams. We'll talk about maybe some coaches that might be in trouble and things like that. But anything you want to bring up, please do. Jim Jeffcoat agrees with you. With us. Yes, Rick, I know you've expressed the same thing. And whenever I've talked about this on the Mac and Jack show on Sundays when former NFL great, by the way, Jim Jeffcoat was a great player with the Cowboys and with the Bills. And really happy that I get to spend, a half an hour with him every Sunday. But he agrees, back in his time, they did hit during training camp every day, sometimes more than every day. But the Players Association, again, they think that they're helping their players and keeping them healthy, where I think they're really hurting them. So I agree with you there, Rick. Good point. Around the league, AFC East, the Dolphins are 6-2, the Bills 5-3. Jets holding tough, 4-3, even with the mediocre play of Zach Wilson. And the Patriots at 2-6. Last week was a huge game for the Patriots. I like the Bengals to beat the Bills today, so they will be 5-4. We talk about the Patriots and whether they're out of it, or at least I do. You look around the league, and there's a lot of teams sitting just 2 games ahead of you in the wild card race. And the Patriots have got a run of games here now, where they played a team formerly known as the Redskins. That could be a win. The Colts could be a win. The Giants should be a win. Chargers, maybe not, but they should win 3 of the next 4, in my mind, which puts them at 5-7. And now anything can happen. Now it does get much tougher. They got the Steelers, so I could say they could be 6-7. But then they got the Chiefs, they got the Broncos, that's 7-8, maybe. And you finish with the Bills and the Jets. Outside possibility still to get to that 9 wins. It's not, again, when I drink, I think I got a shot. Otherwise, I don't. I mean, Miami's been very good, despite that blowout by the Bills a few weeks back, or a month ago now, I guess. But the Dolphins definitely are going to win this division in my mind. Bills and Jets will fight for a playoff spot. We'll see if the Patriots can do anything. Coach is in trouble. The only coach in trouble here might be Bill Belichick. A lot of rumors about Bill Belichick. The latest one is the fact that the Redskins may be interested in trading for him. Now, remember, unless they fire him, he can't go anywhere else without a trade of some kind. Redskins have been floating the idea that they may be interested in negotiating a trade for Bill Belichick after the year. There's also been some rumors that if he were to be let go, or the teams and him decide to mutually part ways, that he might go to the Chargers, because Staley unlikely to survive there in my mind unless they make a deep playoff run, or at least a playoff run. And that'd be a good spot. He's got a franchise quarterback. There's a lot of pieces in place already. I do not think Bill Belichick's going to retire if he gets let go. Personally, I do not think Bill Belichick will be leaving this team. Now, there's a couple of things at play here. They really want Gerard Mayo to be the next guy, by all accounts. They paid him an exorbitant amount to be to stay this past year. He had a chance to leave. He was going to be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. He's basically the coordinator for the Patriots without the title. Not Steve Belichick. Don't believe that nonsense. But if they want Mayo and they want to keep him, because he's going to get head coaching. He's already had head coaching not offers, but he's interviewed for many over the last couple of years. And they may have to make a move. If they want him, they may have to move Bill out. So there's that in play. I do think Bill will be back next year, but that remains to be seen. Philly -3. Who you got? I got Philly here, easy here. Until the Cowboys show me, Don, that they can beat the Dallas. I've got Philadelphia, and I'll get to the rest of my picks later on. Clayton Tune should be stellar. You ever wonder where some of these guys come from? Funniest thing I heard last week was, I don't know what show I was on. I guess it was, it was a new show I did with Northeast Streaming Sports. I think the Northeast Sports Report or something we called it on Wednesday. Sorry, I don't know the real name of the show. I'll figure that out. But somebody talked about the fact that Danny DeVito came in and played for the Giants last week. I believe it's Tony DeVito, or maybe I got that name wrong too. But what? Let's move on to the South. The Ravens 6-2. The Steelers, surprisingly, being outscored, are 5-3. Nice win for them on Thursday night. The Browns are 4-3. The criminally complicit quarterback will be back, I think, today for them. Not sure. Drew, maybe you got some news on that. The Bengals at 4-3, I think, are still the best team in this division. They're in last place. I do believe they'll win this division. At worst, get a wild card, because they're probably. I still think Kansas City's the best team in the AFC. I think Cincinnati's right behind them. Coaches in trouble here. Harbaugh, no. Tomlin, no. Tomlin is one of the most underrated coaches in football. He's done a great job with this team, and he's done a great job in the past. And his resume, I don't think leaves much question that he's one of the better coaches in the league. And one of the more remarkable facts is the fact that the Steelers have had only 3 coaches since like 1970 or 69. That's 54 years, guys. 3 coaches. Most of these teams have 3 coaches in 8 or 9 years these days. Cleveland coach, whose name is escaping me at the moment. I was going to say Stefanik. That's not it. What the hell's his name? Help me out. Yeah, Stefanski. I was close. Stefanski. He could be in trouble this year if this team does not rally a bit. I think he could be in trouble. But I expect the Bengals to win this, so certainly their coach is in no trouble. In the South, the Jaguars, Doug Peterson doing a great job. And Trevor Lawrence starting to play more like he did at the end of last year. 6-2. This team is a team to watch when we get to playoff time, and they should win this division for fun. The Texans, who have been a good story early in the year, had a bad loss last week to Carolina. They're 3-4. The Colts 3-5. Richardson's out for the year. I said that was I understand teams love his athleticism, but I didn't see enough for him to be an NFL-ready quarterback. And again, he put himself in harm's way a lot, and the team put him in harm's way. And I think he'll be the biggest bust of this first round. I still stand by that. The Tennessee Titans, 3-5, probably not going anywhere. Will Levis did play well. It's going to be interesting to see if he can continue to play well and maybe win that job. Tannehill, and whether Tannehill comes back when he's healthy will be an interesting point as well. I'll do the West, and I'll get this through some comments. I'll get to them. The Chiefs, again, look at 6-2. They own the Chargers, who are in second place at 3-4. Probably the most disappointing team in the AFC, I would say, is the Chargers. With the talent that they have, there's no reason for this team to be 3-4. Their coach is going to be feeling some heat, as I said earlier, if he doesn't go on some kind of playoff run. Vegas, we know, just blew everything up with Josh McDaniel and his GM getting fired, 3-5. They're not going anywhere. The Broncos, 3-5. Tough first year for Peyton. I expected them to rebound a little bit, and they still might. Nice win over Kansas City last week, but again, that team was sick and tired, if you will. So we'll see. What do we got here? The rise of Brett Ripien will also be noteworthy. Well, if he continues to play, it will be interesting for sure. He's had a couple of shots in the NFL, hasn't not necessarily done great, but we'll see how he does. In the NFC rather, guys, I got to take a quick break here. So do me a favor. Stand by, put up your comments if you like, and I will be back in just a second. I thought I had I'll be right back. Here I am. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay tuned. All right, guys, we're back. Little practice run for when we have some commercials to put in there. I didn't do it very smoothly, and I apologize. But we're back. What do we got here? Comments. TD Chiefs. Oh, the game's going on right now, right? What's the score? I forgot we had a game going on in Germany. Didn't show up on mine yet, but that would be 7-0. That would be 7-0. Hope that was a Mahomes touchdown. My fantasy teams could use it. Oh, hit the ground. You got me all excited. Yeah, gosh darn it. Let me get the right graphic back up here. So anyway, where were we? We're going into the NFC now. Comments on teams in the NFC. Philadelphia playing. You know what? A lot of talk about Philadelphia not playing great, but they are 7-1. Best record in the NFC. Best record in football. I don't know what's not to like about this team. I know that Jalen Hurts has turned the ball over a bit more than he has in the past, but this is still a really good football team. 7-1, and they've got basically a game and a half lead over the Cowboys, which they can stretch and make it very hard on the Cowboys if they win tonight. Basically be a 2.5 game lead, a 3 game lead in the win column, and make it very tough for the Cowboys. The Cowboys 5-2. They got an impressive win in Denver. I'm not Denver. I think they had a impressive win against San Francisco. They had a bad loss to the Cardinals. Knocked me out of $170 or $150,000 survivor pool. Not sold on Dallas. The running game needs help. The talk was they were after a running back, Derrick Henry, basically during the trade deadline. So very interesting to see what Dallas can do here the rest of the year. Dak, to me, still makes big mistakes in big moments. You know, all these comments that I've been seeing recently that Dak at the end of the day will have a better career than Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what you guys are drinking or what games you're watching, but they're not the same games I'm watching. Elsewhere in this division, you got the Commanders, team formerly known as the Redskins. 3-5, bad loss last week. Sam Howell up and down, and maybe it's not Sam Howell's fault. Maybe he's a viable NFL quarterback. That has yet to be seen. But this team is just discombobulated. They traded away their best two defensive players, arguably their best two defensive players, and there's no doubt that Coach Rivera's job. I think Ron Rivera is a great, great guy, and he's a good coach. But I think he's probably at the end of his road here. And again, a lot of rumors floating that the Redskins will attempt to make a trade for Bill Belichick after the season. And we don't know what Belichick's contract situation is. Rumor was running about that he signed a contract extension in the offseason. So we're unsure. The Patriots are very tight-lipped about that type of thing. So it remains to be seen. And the Giants at 2-6, just look at, I picked them to finish second in this division, make the playoffs. But I said then, their margin of error is about this big. And they've really exceeded that margin of error by miles. They've still got a good nucleus with Jones, I think, is still a viable quarterback. Saquon Barkley needs to be healthy and producing more, but the offensive line is atrocious. The defense is good. The weapons, I can't tell whether the wide receivers are any good because Jones and Taylor, they don't have time to get the ball down the field. The offensive line is very porous and very bad. I do not think Dabo is in any trouble. They're going to give him another year. You got to be careful because if you give up on coaches too soon, you could give up on a really great coach. A guy that I don't like as a person, Bill Parcells, great football coach, horrible person, is a great example. People don't remember the Giants nearly fired him after going 3-12 in his first season and the team being in disarray. And we all know how that turned out. A couple comments here. Philadelphia-Dallas matchup should be fun. It should be a good game. I mean, but Dallas, to me, has not shown the ability to beat the Eagles, this Eagles version. And until they do, I think Philadelphia's got the edge here. They got the edge of quarterback. They've got too many weapons. The Cowboys have good weapons as well. But I think the running game is better. I think the defense is better. So, again, I think it'll come down to who doesn't turn the ball over, and I'm more confident that Dak Prescott will turn the ball over and Jalen Hurts will not. NFC South, quality teams vying for the best of the worst. We'll go to the South. We'll go to the South first. I'll skip the North for a second since Drew went right to the mediocres. This is pretty much a repeat of last year. Maybe the last couple of years. No, I guess last couple of years. Falcons at 4-4. The Saints at 4-4. Desmond Ridder looks like he's going to be benched this week for the Falcons. They've been very up and down this year. The Saints, again, as long as Derek Carr is their quarterback, I'm not putting any money on them in big games. The Bucs had played or got off to a good start. Now they've lost 3 in a row. I think they have a bye this week, I think. And Carolina just got their first win. So you got 3 teams as Drew says, quality in quotation marks, vying for the best of the worst. Any coaches in trouble here? Yeah. I would say Buccaneers coach is in a lot of trouble if they were to fall through the floor here. Todd Bowles. And a lot of word in Carolina that Frank Reich may not last through his first season here because of the debacle that they've had. You know, they've had injuries to Bryce Young. You can't blame Bryce Young. People are getting on Bryce Young saying he's a big bust. He's blah, blah, blah. You can't say that, 7 games into his career when he hasn't been able to play. C.J. Stroud has played much better, obviously, when they have played. And now Will Levis is ahead of him. I think Will Levis, as I said, is the best quarterback of this class. I said it before the draft. We'll see whether it rings true. I think the rest of those coaches should be safe. Of the other 2 coaches. To the NFC North, the Lions playing really good football. Better defense. Much better defense. Still a pretty strong offense. Never been a big Jared Goff fan, but he gets the job done. The Vikings, it looked like we're going to make a run as they've won 3 in a row after a really poor start at 1-4. But now they lose Kirk Cousins. They trade for Dobbs to be their quarterback. He may have played there before. No, he played with the Browns. Who did he play with before? Did he play with the Vikings before, Rick? But I don't foresee the Vikings making a run without Jefferson, without Cousins. And Cousins' era is over there. Is the Kirk Cousins era over in Minnesota? I think it might be. And it's a sad way to go out. This is a pretty good guy. Listen, I've always been pretty hard on Kirk Cousins. And I gained some new respect for Kirk. Maybe not necessarily as a winning NFL quarterback, but at least as a person and the things that he goes through. When I watched Quarterback on Netflix. If you haven't watched Quarterback, or QB, I think it is. I'm not sure what the title of it is. It's either Quarterback or QB. But it followed Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, and Mariota, who played with the Falcons last year and walked away during the season. It followed them around last year. It was a very good series. Check it out if you get a chance. Packers, listen, just a lot of talk that LaFleur is in trouble in Green Bay. Now, they didn't have a great year last year, and Aaron Rodgers last year there. They're not having a great year this year, and Jordan Love's first chance as a starter. And I mean, he's not a rookie, but he is a rookie starter, let's say, first-time starter. And he's going through some growing pains, which is to be expected, I think. I think Jordan Love shows enough promise to say he may have a chance to play in this league. It's going to be a question of whether he's playing for LaFleur or someone else. The Bears collapsing. I thought the Bears were going to really take a leap forward this year. That certainly did not happen. And, their coach is probably going to be in trouble as well, I would think. Mike Eberflus. I think this is probably going to be his swan song as well, as I think this team will probably start over. The question is whether they'll start over with a new quarterback or not, or stick it out with Josh Fields. I still think Josh Fields can be a good NFL quarterback. Let's see what we got here. Anything else? Mediocrity in the NFC makes for many teams involved for wild cards. I think you see the same in the NFC specifically, but I think you even see it in the AFC. Drew, I mean, with 2 wins, I can't say the Patriots are absolutely done. If they were to find a way to go 7-2 the rest of the year, which, again, if this team were to put it together, it could happen with the parity in the league. And this is what the league wants. The league wants this type of parity. They want 15 teams involved for the playoffs the last week. I don't think there's anything wrong with really good teams and really bad teams. I don't need parity to get excited. So, yes, a lot of mediocrity. There's mediocrity all over football. I don't think I've ever seen, we talked about this a couple weeks ago at the Creekside. We had a pretty good conversation. I don't remember seeing so many bad teams at one time in the NFL. There are a lot of bad teams. I mean, just go through what we've talked about so far, and we'll get to the West in a second. Patriots are a bad team. Jets probably are not. I think the Browns are a bad team. The Texans, the Colts, the Titans, the Raiders, the Broncos. What's that, 6? The Giants, the Redskins, the Packers, the Bears. The Vikings will end up being one of those before long, probably. The Panthers, I'm going to throw the Buccaneers in there. The Rams, the Cardinals. That's a lot of bad teams for one season. Bet Carr is thrilled to be out of Vegas now. I'm sure he was before. But listen, I'm not a big Derek Carr fan, and I don't expect the Saints to be any better than the Raiders were with Derek Carr. He'll play some big games. He'll win some games in the regular season that they should have lost. But he'll go into the playoffs and remember he's Derek Carr, and they won't win a game. He's got the same number of playoff wins as Mac Jones. Just saying. I said the Cardinals, didn't I? Did I leave the Cardinals out? Sorry. Rams and Cardinals. I thought I said them last. Levis looked just okay on Thursday. Good potential, though. No, I said when I brought him up earlier that, he didn't play nearly as well in his second game. But listen, there's going to be some ups and downs with a rookie quarterback. I said before the draft he had the best upside of all these guys. I said he would have the best NFL career of any of these guys coming out. I thought he'd get drafted in the top 10. I think a lot of teams are going to kick themselves in the butt for not taking this guy when it's all said and done. Now, we may not know that for a long time. And I'm not saying he's going to be the best rookie quarterback this year. C.J. Stroud may be better than him. And I don't even know that Will Levis is going to get a chance to play if they bring Tannehill back. I wouldn't. But they might. Work with the kids after the injury. Who are we talking about? I'm not sure who we're talking about there. Rashee Rice touchdown. There you go. Is that a run or a pass? We certainly want to get a pass out of Patrick Mahomes. 7-0. Mahomes, a touchdown, 71 yards. 7-0. Chiefs, by the way. Again, the demise of the Chiefs is greatly exaggerated. Best team in the AFC. Kirk resigns a 1 or 2 year deal. Resigns 1 or 2 year deal, and they'll have 2 or 3 development quarterbacks in play for the roster next season. Well, how do you keep 2 or 3 guys development quarterbacks? Nobody's got 2 or 3 guys. CA. I mean, Kirk might have to, sign a 1 year deal somewhere with a make good contract. I don't know. Maybe it will be back with Minnesota. Let me get Rick's thoughts on that. Rick, do you think that Kirk Cousins should come back? Or do you think they should move on and start over? I mean, I'm kind of the opinion maybe it's time to move on and start over. You got a really bright young coach, and maybe they just need let him develop his own quarterback. Oh, Kirk was working with the young players. Yes, listen, this guy is a tremendous teammate. Again, and I feel a little bad about some of the remarks I've made about Kurt in the past, but I don't know that he's a guy you can count on to take you to the promised land, which is why it might be a good time for them to move on. Dobbs was a steal for nothing. And his first states where the horrible offense stacked up well. Again, did Dobbs play? And Rick says yes, he wants to bring Kirk back if he's healthy. Well, he's going to be as healthy as you can be coming back from an ankle injury or Achilles injury. Excuse me. What about Rick? Tell me, did Dobbs start with the Vikings? I don't remember. I guess I'll look it up myself. I thought Josh Dobbs, bear with me 1 second. Need a producer to do this, right? All right. Football Reference. We love the Football Reference. Baseball Reference, Football Reference. They're just tremendous. Yeah. Oh, he's with the Vikings now. My bad. No, you've been with Arizona the whole. No, that's this year. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and Arizona. My bad. I don't know why I thought there was a guy named Dobbs up there. Yeah, he actually started with Pittsburgh. He started no games. He got into 6 games over 2 years in Pittsburgh. Interesting stuff. CA, Kirk isn't leaving the system. Injury unfortunately hurts. However, it will help the contract with JJ. Well, that's true. Again, they got to find a way to keep Jefferson. That's for sure. That guy is a special talent and cannot be allowed to walk away at any point. Let's get to I didn't do the NFC West. The Seahawks, my pick to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, along with the Jets. So at least maybe I'll get one of those teams there. They have a half-game lead over the 49ers. 49ers having lost 3 in a row. Certainly neither one of those coaches is in trouble. The Rams are at 3-5. Now Stafford's hurt today. I would say definitely McVay is not in trouble. If they were going to move him out, he would have been moved out last year. Certainly McClanahan. Shanahan, good grief. The Mad New Yorker's favorite coach, Shanahan, is not in any trouble either. So, and certainly Pete Carroll will coach until he doesn't want to coach. He might coach till he's 80 years old. This guy's 72 years old. He's the oldest coach in the NFL. And you gotta watch some of the video of this guy. I mean, God, he's running around like he's 42 years old. And he's a good players coach, and he's an underrated coach, Pete Carroll. He really is. And I'll repeat what I've said a few times about Pete Carroll. It turned out pretty good, but Bob Kraft said his biggest regret as an NFL owner was firing Pete Carroll. Love the guy. Underrated coach. I always root for Pete Carroll. Yeah, I know things weren't very pretty out there in USC, but whatever. Let's get to this week's game, shall we? Give you my predictions. Drew, you can tell everybody where I stand in the standings in the pick'em pool. Remember, the pick'em pool is only winners and losers. I'm doing this with the spread, so there's a little bit of difference there. And I will say I pick out 3 teams that I bet each week. 3 college teams, 3 pro teams. Last week, 0-3 on the college side, and I'm well up. I've had a very good season. Actually picked 3 winners last week in the NFL to give me a split. Well, I lost was the VIG. So that worked out pretty good. Washington, the Patriots. Patriots are 3. I like the Patriots here. I think the pass rush for the Redskins is going to be certainly hindered by trading 2 of their best defensive linemen, 2 of their top defensive players in general, I think, even if Young was a bit of a disappointment. I think the team itself may be a little bit down with some of the things that happened with these players leaving and the talk about their coach being in trouble. I like the Commanders to lose this game to the Patriots. Patriots -3 in this game. And I do like Mac Jones, I think, will have a good game here today. And by all accounts, watch Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas, who has played very well last few weeks. He'll be stepping into Bourne's position now that he'll be out for the year. And also Butte, the wide receiver from LSU, had a really good week of practice, and he should be part of this game plan today as well. The Falcons and the Vikings. This is a tough one, but I'm going to take the Falcons minus 3.5. Dobbs has played okay. I just think this Vikings team is up against it now. And I think it's going to be very tough for them to gather themselves after Cousins' injury last week. Maybe they rally around Dobbs. We'll see. But I like the Falcons, and I do believe Ritter's been benched for this game for Tyler Heineke. So we'll see how that works out. I like the Falcons here. The Browns and the Cardinals. The Browns will be my pick in the Survivor pool, and I like the Browns minus 12.5 here at home. I think the criminally complicit quarterback is playing today for Cleveland. The Rams and the Packers. The Packers are 3.5-point favorite. Stafford out. I think the Packers get the win here, minus 3.5. The Bears and the Saints, a lot of points. The Saints laying here, but Bears with no real quarterback. I'm going to have to jump all over the Saints in this game. Probably win by 2 touchdowns. Seahawks. My big upset today will be the Seahawks. I'm going to stay with them. I've been very hot with them as an underdog. And a favorite in the Mac and Jack and Jim Pick'ems, as I've tied Jack Hirsch for the lead there. I'm going to take the Seahawks plus 6.5 over the Ravens today. Texans minus 3 over the Bucks. I'm going to take the Texans to bounce back after a bad loss to the Panthers last week. They return home. Stroud's played pretty well. 9 touchdowns against only 1 interception. I think they will play pretty well here. Baker Mayfield may have a tough time against this Texans defense. I like them. The Panthers and the Colts in a game you got to pay me to go watch. The Colts are a 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Panthers to win their second game in a row here just because they were at home, and I think the Colts will have trouble on the road. Giants and the Raiders. Maybe that's the game nobody wants to see. Raiders a 1.5 favorite. I'm going to take the Giants with that 1.5. Daniel Jones back. Hopefully they can simplify this offense and protect him so he doesn't get himself killed back there. And I hope his neck is sufficiently recovered, the neck injury, so that he is not putting himself at further risk here. I like the Eagles minus 3 against the Cowboys. Again, until the Cowboys show me that they can beat the Eagles, I'm going to stay with the Eagles. I think Hurts is less likely, even though he does have 8 interceptions already. I think he's less likely to turn the ball over in a big spot than Dak Prescott. I think the Eagles win this one by a touchdown. Bengals over the Bills. I'll take the Bengals minus 2.5. The Bengals are playing really good football. They got off to a bad start. They played as good as anybody in the AFC and maybe in football the last 3 weeks. And Joe Burrows is really starting to get it down. Mixon's been running the ball well, and that defense is playing better as well. So I like the Bengals. I think I took the Steelers over the Titans on Thursday night, so we got a winner there. And the Jets and the Chargers tomorrow night, that's an exciting one. I'm going to take the Chargers minus 3.5. The Jets have got a championship level defense. That's the only thing they can hang their hat on. But the Chargers defense is good, and I think they'll turn the ball over. I think Zach Wilson will turn the ball over several times here, maybe even a pick 6 somewhere. So we'll see how that goes. Well, you're already down. Did I take the Titans Thursday night? I couldn't have taken the Titans Thursday night. Maybe I did just because of my Will Levis. I've been on Pittsburgh almost every week. Can't believe I took Pittsburgh. I'm also tied for the last, if you don't count one guy who's already missed picks for 2 weeks. Well, he's in the league. I have to count him. So that leaves me second to last. Rick's tied for second right now, and Drew is in fourth. That's your the nose pickers pick'em league. What else? Anything else you guys want to talk about in the world of the NFL? I'm going to move on to some Major League Baseball. It doesn't look like Jim Biringer is going to join us today. Maybe we'll talk a little hockey without him. We'll see what the Major League Baseball brings us. because there's some news to talk about. We know the Rangers won the World Series. Again, congratulations to them. Congratulations to Alan Perales for sticking with his team. They overcame some speed bumps, if you will, with their pitching staff, and DeGrom going out for the year, trading for Scherzer, and he didn't really produce, or getting injuries like to Dunning and whatnot in that rotation / bullpen. So congratulations to them. Bruce Bochy Bochy's going to be just, he's a retirement and 5 years away from being in the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to them. Do they have staying power? I don't know. We talked about this a little bit Friday. You can watch the Major League Baseball update. We talked at length about this. Again, I still have doubts about their pitching staff. I have doubts about the way they play the game, some of these guys. And I won't get into all that today. But I think they need to reinforce this bullpen. I think they need to reinforce the back end of the starting staff. Everybody there is an injury risk. Scherzer's an injury risk. DeGrom comes back, he's an injury risk. Dunning, we know, is an injury risk. Gray's an injury risk. Perez didn't pitch nearly as well as he did last year. I don't even know if he was I think he was on the roster in the postseason. But again, stupidly, last year they should have traded him at the deadline, got something for him. They could have kept him if they wanted him. But at least you would have got something more, potentially, than what you got out of Perez this year. So congratulations to the Rangers. I do not see them repeating, but that's just me. We got a few comments here. See, it could be leftover football or whatever. Let's see. Rick says, tied with the boxing guy is nothing to brag about. Well, the football guy's got 10 wins all year. Let's not forget who's at the bottom of those standings, Mr. Jim Jeffcoat, former Dallas Cowboy. Great. But you're right. Good morning. Wilson, 6 turnovers. Zach Wilson, today, this week, Billy? Possibly. I think they will turn. I didn't say 6 turnovers. I did say I do think the Chargers will turn over Zach Wilson, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a pick 6 in there somewhere. First major trade of the offseason. Major. Drew's busy with the quotes. He doesn't have to use, I guess they're air quotes if you were talking. Major trade in the offseason kind of goes to Detroit. No big shakes there, but some big news around the world of baseball. Chicago White Sox have ended Anderson's deal, so he'll be out of Chicago this year. Kluber out of Boston, not quite so big. Bellinger has opted out of his contract with Chicago. A lot of talk about him possibly coming to the Yankees. And if I'm the Yankees, I'm considering Bellinger and stop thinking about freaking Juan Soto. There's no place to play Soto in this lineup. He's a suspect defensive player. He can't play what's the biggest left field still in Major League Baseball in Yankee Stadium. And he can't DH because we're stuck with Stanton. Plus, you got to re-sign him. So I like the prospects of bringing in Bellinger, who can play any of those outfield positions and play them well, and maybe even play first base if anything happens with Rizzo going forward. So just a thought there. Kershaw has had surgery. His future is in doubt, but he says he wants to pitch again, and he wants to pitch with the Dodgers. The biggest news maybe is the fact that the Reds have bought out Joey Votto, saying that they cannot guarantee him the playing time that he deserves. And it does not sound like Joey Votto is ready to retire. So it's going to be very interesting to see where Joey Votto lands in this offseason, as we've got now a couple of guys we didn't know if we'd see in this free agent market. Anderson specifically, and Votto. Also, Dirk Merrifield has opted out of his contract with the Blue Jays. Nelson Cruz retires. And again, good point. I did want to bring a couple. I had 2 rest in peace. Oh, yes. Rest in peace to, I'm going to talk about Bob Knight at the end. Rest in peace to Frank Howard, one of the great pure power hitters in the American League near the end of his career. He was a scary individual to see up there, man. I remember being a kid and watching him play against the Yankees, and he was a mountain of a man and also a good person and a good baseball man. Coached and managed a lot of different teams after his playing career was over. And for a long while, he was about the only reason to go watch the Washington Senators play. And I'm going to talk about a rest in peace to Bob Knight. We'll talk about Bob Knight maybe in the last couple minutes of the show. Don Play's back. How you doing, Don? Big thing now will be the free agents, non-tenders causing free agents. Yes, if we talked about a couple of non-tenders already or buyouts. So we will be adding to the free agent ranks soon, and next week we'll get into the free agent list, and maybe Drew will have you on again next week, and we'll concentrate that hour on going through who the free agents are, and maybe a prediction of where they might be, at least the top guys, because there's probably going to be 100 and plus free agents. KC's defense has depth. If we're still talking about the Chiefs, yes, I think the Chiefs, again, people have talked about how their offense is not quite as explosive. They still score plenty of points. They still move the ball around the field, and it's Kelsey that makes that offense go, not Hill, that, as I said before. The other guys have got to step up to fill in for Hill. They just brought Merkel, whatever his name is, Hardman, back. Sky Moore, I think, will continue to develop into a reliable player, and some other guys there will step up as well. And the defense is underrated. It's gotten much better the last couple of years. So I agree. Too many young guns on the Reds to fit Votto, which is basically what they said. And I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think Votto's ready to call it a career. 17 years, I believe, he spent in Cincinnati. Didn't have a great year last year, but he was hurt a lot, especially early in the year. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Joey Votto's career from here. I'm sure somebody will bring him in. Kershaw shed my fantasy baseball season. Oh, saved. Kershaw saved your fantasy baseball season. Listen, Kershaw's a good pitcher. You just don't get him in the postseason. The Dodgers pitching staff is still in trouble with Kershaw's surgery. Listen, now they will get back Walker Buehler next year, so I think that'll help the Dodgers along. But again, I talked about this with Drew on Friday, and I mentioned it on this show. There's a lot of guys that want to bash Dave Roberts. And kudos to Drew, because he picked Dave Roberts to be the NL Manager of the Year before the season. He won't be, probably. But I think he should be, for navigating the injuries to that pitching staff and other areas of the infield, in outfield. I mean, some of those guys, and look at some of these guys that are, sub 200 batting averages on this team. I think he did a great job of navigating those injuries and other issues, and won 100 games again. Now, I know they went out in the first round of the playoffs, but first of all, they ought to be playing 7 games there. And you don't count the playoffs when you're looking at Manager of the Year. That's not, those votes should already be in. So I think the Dodgers will be fine. What game do I really like today? I really like the Bengals over the Bills -2.5, Don. And you're going to laugh at me, but I really like the Patriots -3 over the. That's my 3 picks, by the way. And I may bet these games just like this. The picks I made on the Mac and Jack show: Patriots, Eagles, Bengals. I may throw out one of them and bet the Seahawks +6.5 on the road. That was my underdog pick on the Mac and Jack show. Watching some NBA with Andre Jackson and the Bucks. The Knicks have been competitive this season. but revert to one-on-one. The problem with the Knicks, the Knicks have played okay on defense. Their offense has been, again, it stalls, and guys are resorting to that one-on-one. They'll get it together, I'm sure. They've got to get away from that, especially at the end of games. It's like having Carmelo Anthony back out there again. Andre Jackson's played well with the Andre Jackson's an Amsterdam native, by the way, Amsterdam, New York. He's played pretty well. The team has gotten off to a good start. I want to look at his numbers. Let's just take a quick look at Andre Jackson. They're only 3-2 so far, the Bucks, but they'll be okay. Giannis is at 24-8, playing very well. Where is our boy? Jackson hasn't played a lot. He's only averaged 6 minutes a game. So he's not getting a lot of playing time yet. But I think he will be a productive player for this team. If not this year, then next year for sure. He thinks I live in Vegas. It's funny. I think I give Don more winners than I give myself. Don doesn't have a scary profile picture this week, at least, to scare the crap out of me on a Sunday morning. What else do you want to talk about? Major League Baseball. I'm going to move on to a couple other comments. The NBA we talked out just briefly, since we're on that topic. I do want to get to Bob Knight. I want to talk about Bob Knight for a few minutes before we wrap this up at 10:30. The Celtics off to a good start, undefeated 5-0. The 76ers 4-1, leading the East. The big surprise, maybe the Orlando Magic at 4-2. The disappointments would be the Heat at 2-4, the Knicks at 2-4. In the West, the Denver continues where they left off last year, 6-1. The Warriors off to a good start, 5-1. Don't count the Warriors out here. The Mavericks off to a good start at 4-1. Big surprise, the Grizzlies 0-6 after being a playoff contender the last few years. Utah off to a 2-5 start, and Phoenix off to a 2-4 start. I think they'll rebound myself, but we'll see how that goes. Erod, Neris, Stroman opt out too. Missed that one. Josh Bell exercises his option to stay with Miami. Interesting. Yeah, that's a surprise for sure. And again, the Marlins looking to replace their GM, the woman GM. Can't say her name. I won't even try. She did a great job there. She's going to be back in Major League Baseball pretty soon. Why she's let go, the ownership of this team, I think, just doesn't have a clue of how to put together a consistent winning Major League organization. And we'll see if they get back to it. Very quickly, let's look at the NHL since we didn't get Mr. Biringer in today. Not sure what happened to him. Just a quick look. At the standings, the early standings, the Bruins pick up where they left off in last year's regular season anyway, starting off the season 9-1. The Rangers off to a really good start, 8-2-1. By the way, the Bruins do also have a overtime loss. Hurricanes are, I don't care about that one. They're not off to such a great start. Out west, the Stars 7-2-1, the Avalanche 7-2, the Knights undefeated 11-0 and one overtime loss. That's not really undefeated though, is it? I don't think it is. And the Sharks, by the way, 10-1, the worst start, one of the worst starts in NHL history. Some other disappointments throughout here. Probably I would have to count. Big. The Penguins only 4-6, a bit of a disappointment. Ottawa at 4-6 got some problems and some drama going on there, which I had hoped to talk to Jim Biringer about. We will once we get there. My last comment tonight, I want to talk about. I don't have a banner for it, but I want to talk about Bob Knight. Bob Knight passed away. I think at the age of 82 the other night during my college football huddle show. Bob Knight was a very polarizing figure. He's a dinosaur. He could not coach at any level today the way he coached, unfortunately, because kids, and again, you can think what you want about Bob Knight and his tactics. He became a bit of a caricature himself, but he was always hard on kids. And all of the kids from Indiana, and I think Texas Tech, would go back to Coach Knight and thank him for the way he helped grow them as young men. His tactics weren't always pretty. He had the incident of putting his hands around a kid's throat, it looked like, anyway, in a practice session at Indiana, which really ended up costing him his job once he got zero tolerance. And then something happened with a student who, baited him. Look, Bob Knight was a great coach, a great influence on NCAA basketball, an icon, the type we will never see again, because coaches can't coach the way Bob Knight coached. They can't manage that way because people are too sensitive. People don't want to have their feelings hurt. And we can't allow adults and authority figures to offend and hurt kids' feelings. You know what? And Rick, I know, and Kenny will agree with me that we grew up with some very tough coaching, and I was a better player for it, and I became a better person for it as well. You were held accountable. You weren't just allowed to just do whatever you wanted, whether it was on the field or off the field. You were held accountable for the things that you were responsible for. And Bob Knight was that type of coach. And we are going to have a society of people who feel, what's the word I'm looking for? We've moved past, it's gotten even worse. I mean, I've got people that have worked for me who think I ought to be thanking them for coming to work. And then when I expect something out of them, they take offense. Oh, what about so-and-so? Oh, what about so-and-so? Well, how about taking responsibility for yourself? And guys like Bob Knight made guys take responsibility for themselves, not make excuses, not cheat their own talent, not give anything less than 100%. Great, great coach. Great. Was he a good human being? No, he's flawed. Very flawed human being. And we'll get to that. So, see what comments we have left here before we wrap it up. Kim Eng. Oh, like Engel. Kim Eng. She'll get a job. Guaranteed. Like to see her get Brian Cashman's job. Well, it's a great line that Bob Knight had that I believe goes, Rick is close, but the line was more like, and when my time on this earth is past, I have just one request. When they put me in the ground, I ask they bury me upside down so my critics can kiss my ass. I played for a couple of similar coaches who would never have changed this and would never have changed this. Again, we grew up at a time where you didn't get offended by everything that was said to you and done with, to make you a better player and a better person. Entitled. Thank you. I couldn't come up with the word entitled. Without merit. It's the I'm probably going to do a vlog on this week. I got to get back into doing some vlogs. But, it's the trophy, the participation trophy syndrome taken to the furthest extreme. Because there's another saying too, Rick, that uncoachable kids become unemployable adults. And that's part of the problem today too, because they don't want to be coached. They don't want to be, because don't look at me. He looked at me funny. I don't want to go back, Mom. And parents let their kids just quit. They make a commitment to a team. And then when something doesn't go right, I'm not playing. The coach doesn't like me. The coach yelled at me, this and that. The parents let the kid quit. I was never been allowed to quit. I was not a good ball player. I've said this many times. I'm going to get a few minutes. When I was young, little league, I was not a good kid. Kid. I don't know. Maybe I was a bad kid too. I was not a good player. I made myself a good player because I didn't want to sit on the bench. But I didn't. My parents were not going to let me quit. So I made myself better by practicing every minute of every day, basically, when it wasn't snow on the ground, and became a good ball player. You know, not major league caliber, obviously, but good enough to play in college and good enough to play semi-pro till my body broke down. And I had fun, and I would not have been able to do that without my coaches growing up. And it made me a better person later in my life because I learned perseverance, and I didn't get mad. I didn't go hide in a corner and cry every time a boss yelled at me or had a terse word for me and told me I needed to do things differently. Part of the reason you're retired, yes, I'm sure. I'm sure, Rick. I mean, again, it's tough. I manage a bunch of people. So, right now, we've made a lot of changes in the last year, and the team I have is pretty good. But I had a team before that, people, again, they felt they need a pat on the back just for showing up to work. Father's lack of the engagement or knowledge to instill that responsibility is a gift, not a burden. Agreed. DDH, thumbs up, absolutely. We got them at the top, and we'll get them at the back. Guys, also, please like, follow, and share, or like, share, and follow, whatever area you want to do it. Share this show. Go to Facebook and share it to your page. Invite your friends. Also, get to Roku and download the Northeast Streaming Sports Roku app. You'll get to see a lot of great shows, ones you may not watch on Facebook. Please, you want to watch and comment. We need to be here, but there's certainly a lot of shows to watch, and there are repeats of other shows as well. So I appreciate everybody joining me today. I'm going to leave that DDH thumbs up there. We had a great talk today. Thanks for all the participation from you guys. We hope to see you again next Sunday at 8:30 with our Stream of Consciousness. We'll see you Wednesday with the college football huddle. Lots to talk about there. We'll have a new college football playoff poll to talk about, amongst other things. We'll be back on Friday with Are You Serious? And I'll have my stops in with Mac and Jack on Friday and Mac and Jack and Jim on Sunday. And catch all of that right here on Northeast Streaming Sports and Let's Talk Sports, and obviously TGI Sports Talk as well. So see you guys later. Have a great, great Sunday. Let's go, Pats!